How's it going, everyone? Jeremy Majors here with Majors Academy Dog Training out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. And we are live. Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And tonight is a special Thursday night edition. Not really. Couldn't do it yesterday, so we're going to try this thing out tonight. Hopefully, we get some good people watching and some good questions. So that being said, just a reminder, anyone who is watching, you guys can ask as many questions as you like. The more questions, the better. Go ahead, ask away. Ask as many questions as you like. All these questions help people who could be watching and or struggling with the same thing. So ask as many questions as you like. Oh, YouTube is also connected to our iTunes. So we are on iTunes, and so you can now listen to us while you are driving or exercising. You don't have to be watching the video to, watch these episodes. They're all recorded to iTunes. So that's kind of cool. All right, let's answer some questions. Okay. My personal dog plays fine with dogs. He does get excited when walking. Is it possible he's got dog aggression on the low? Recently, foster dog and my dog had a scuffle moment. No injuries or such, but my dog reacted with a fight. I know my foster dog has shown some issues with dogs. Is my foster dog's weird vibe making my dog react? Yeah, that could be true. Yeah, there are some dogs that, first of all, not all dogs are going to see or get along. Not all dogs are going to be best friends. Some dogs are going to provoke a different side in your dog, which is part of the game. If you foster dogs, then that's what's going to happen. Sometimes there'll be dogs that will bring out different energy in your dog and your pack and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's perfectly fine. Well, it's normal. It's not fine, but so I would say that your dog would probably is probably telling you that maybe you could control the foster dog a little bit better, and that may help them to see eye to eye. You know what I mean? All right, next question. All right, my 2-year-old what is that? My 2-year-old has a crate. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking that was a breed. Okay. Has a crate beside my bed. Not allowed on mine or furniture. He just started to low hum growl when my middle schoolers enter the room. Okay. Well, is your dog in the crate while the middle schoolers while he's growling, or is he out of the crate? Okay, doesn't matter, huh? Sometimes. Well, then I would say to stop that behavior is you have to give the dog something that he has to do in that situation. When he sees them, he goes to his crate. Oh, that's weird. Okay. Maybe he's a little bit nervous about the middle schoolers, but like I said, you should maybe teach that dog to go to its bed. Um, because the crate can sometimes in dog can sometimes become defensive of the crate. And so if he's a little nervous about anything for that matter, uh, you want to again give them direction in those moments. And so the easiest way or the simplest thing to do would be to put the dog on a bed, on its own bed, not in a crate, because the crate again, it's sort of like a corner sometimes, and dogs can sometimes get defensive over it. So it's not the best that he's going to that crate. What I do is shut the crate door and have a bed on the outside of the crate somewhere where the dog can see them, and then make sure that you tell the middle schoolers not to overwhelm uh, the dog or give the dog some space. You know what I mean? Um, but that's what I think is going on. I think your dog is a little nervous about the middle schoolers, and the dog needs more direction in that situation in order for the dog to not be nervous about it. All right. Thanks for your question. Feel free to ask another. Any of you guys who are having a drink on Thursday, I used to do Thirsty Thursdays a while back, but I had to stop because I had my son and work schedules kind of changed. But I put him to bed at 7, and I decided to go live tonight because I couldn't last night. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully he doesn't wake up. But if he does, we'll have to cut this short. So let's just pray that he stays sleeping. All right, next question. Okay. Is it true that the sight of a corrector tool will make the dog behave? If they see the doggy don't in my hand, they immediately stop in their tracks. Well, not necessarily. Let's just take your question at face value. If you decide to get a tool and you don't use it and you put it in your hand, um, the dogs will not react to it because you haven't used it. It's because you used it and then you put it in your hand that they're now uh, respecting what's in your hand. So it's not about what's in your hand. It's what you did with that tool in your hand, and the threat of doing that again is what they are respecting. So there's that. Going to no. All right. Okay, next question. Let's see. I was trying to have them feed him. It works for girl, but not so much for the other. He hums now, and when it becomes his language with them, please help. No, I mean, feeding is not going to work for every dog. It may work for others. But again, like I said, I can't emphasize enough that your dog needs to listen to you in times of insecurity. That's the best way, most reliable way to get the dog through those moments of confusion, because the dog can decide to bite in those situations to try and advocate for itself. And so you need to do that. You need to advocate for your dog. You have to be able to control the children and your dog. Okay? Tell the children the best thing to do for that dog would be probably for the children to ignore the dog. I don't necessarily subscribe to having children feed the dog. I mean, I guess it can work, and maybe it has with some dogs. But again, the most reliable way is to get the dog to be able to trust you. It's the person it lives with. Because you can communicate with your dog on that level and say, basically, hey, whoever I bring in this house, don't worry about getting insecure because I'm going to be there to make sure that you don't have to handle the situation in the way that you do. So I'd stop doing that because I'd stop feeding the dog, especially if he gets confused because it's the attention that the dog doesn't like. So allow the whoever's coming in to ignore the dog, and see then that the dog may go up to them. I have a ton of insecure dogs that come to my house, and I ignore them, and therefore um, they don't pay. They usually come right up to me. Oh, they're your children. Okay, well, um, that's different. I'm thinking that they're just middle schoolers coming in, but um, well, bottom line, if the dog can listen to you at a very high level, then all insecurities will go away. There have been dogs who have really disliked children, and then they've actually grown up with a child of their own, right? Like excuse me, the parents had a child, and then the dog got to experience what an actual child is, and then that dog now is good with all children, and so that's pretty cool. So don't have them give them breakfast and dinner. Place down and back up. Yeah, I would say he maybe needs a break from them. It, especially if it's not working. Try a different approach. Um, just let them have space. Let the dog get used to your middle schoolers from a distance until he's ready. Sometimes he just needs some space. All right, let's keep it moving. Awesome shirt. You betcha. It's one of my favorites. I would never ever use a prong collar. Never. And I have a pit bull. If you need a prong, you are not doing something right. Hmm. Okay. Next question. That wasn't even a question. But I get these things in my inbox. So I like to go through them, and that was weird. I'm not even going to address that. Okay. How do you keep them to not mark/sniff on the walks? Just keep walking, sort of just pulling them along. What commands do you use? Other suggestions. All right, so it's not about the commands that you use. Okay, I don't want people to get caught up in subscribing to the same commands for the same behavior. You don't have to say sit to teach your dog to sit. You don't have to say down. You don't have to say come. You don't have to say thanks, Carly. You don't have to say the same thing. I don't want people to get caught up in the command. It's not like they're robots and they respond to one word. You guys got to remember there are different languages, and people that speak different languages have dogs too. So do not get caught up in commands. It doesn't matter. What matters most is um, saying what you usually say. Just talk to your dog in the most genuine way. So if you say uh, Green Bay and your dog for to get your dog to come, and that's what like you just say, then that's what you should say. You can teach a dog a few different words for one command too. There are dogs who are bilingual. So don't get caught up in what you have to say. Just stay where with what's genuine and what's going to be consistently coming out of your mouth. For most people, it is come, here, down, sit, stay. But when your dog listens to you the most, it's when they feel that you genuinely are feeling a certain way. So that being said, how do you keep them from marking and sniffing? Well, you have to keep a short leash. Try keeping a very short leash. Um, I say the leash should you should reach for the leash all the way until your arm. So if your arm is stretched out um, and totally relaxed, straight down, that's how short your leash should be. So you should be able to have the leash. It's probably maybe 4 or 5 inches away from the dog, depending on how tall your dog is. But you want to always have your arms in a relaxed position, not up here, but just down here and just nice and relaxed. And then grab the length of the leash where your hand meets the leash if your arms are straight down. Hope that makes sense. It's kind of confusing. But that being said, the dog will feel tension when the dog puts its head down to sniff, and it will learn that it doesn't want that tension, and it will just walk beside you, excuse me, with its head up. So if you allow the nose to hit the ground, the dog will pee. Some dogs will do it without it, but um, maybe 1 or 2 times is fine, but not every mailbox, not every tree, every fire hydrant, stuff like that. All right. Okay. So don't have them give them breakfast or dinner. No. Do you accept donations? No. Just give me a thumbs up and subscribe. That'll be good enough. All right, let's keep it moving. Okay. um, let's see. Can I ask you a question on here, or are we? Yes, you can ask me a question on here. How much are your classes, and does your classes address dog aggression and uh, child aggression? Yes, I don't. First of all, I don't have classes. I do believe that classes are um, for dogs who are maybe I don't know. I can definitely say for dogs that I see, classes are pointless. They're just not real world. I know many of people who have experienced classes. The dog is good in the class, and then when they go out in the real world, the dogs act like a different dog. So classes are hard because, in my opinion, classes welcome a lot of crazy behavior. And for the cautious, insecure, intelligent dog, they don't like that. Okay, for the silly lab or the silly golden retriever or some puppies, that may be okay. But I like to have a class where people have before they enter the class, because a dog is way less likely to react to another dog if that dog is not barking, pulling, or anything else. Uh, so what I'm trying to say is dogs don't necessarily react to dogs who are in control. And when you enter a class and that's their first time, dogs are pulling, dogs are barking, and it's just not a cool environment, in my opinion, to start off in, even if your dog isn't reactive, even if your dog isn't, why would you bring your dog around that sort of thing? And then most classes don't know how to teach people how to truly control their dog anyway. They just feed them treats. A lot of training, a lot of classes is just people feeding their dog, basically. Love your videos. Thanks for what you do. I appreciate that, Mark. Thank you so much. But yeah, back to what I was saying. I think there is a fine line between teaching and feeding when it comes to treat training. Now, again, I'm not against treat training, but there has to be some training that will cause or that will enforce reliable results. And treats don't get reliability. Treats just teach. But once the dog knows it, then the treat should be not there. Okay, Carly. The question says, my parents' dog is awesome on the e-collar, but when it's off, we cannot redirect him. I do my best to make sure it's always on, but is there a way we can practice getting that focus without the e-collar as well? Yeah, a couple different ways. Tell me first what the situation is. What are you trying to redirect the dog from? And I can give you a better answer. Is it dogs? Is it people? Is it sheep? Is it llamas? You got a whole bunch of dogs. You got a whole bunch of different animals now, man. Nature, woods, llamas, dogs. Okay. All right. So this is what I would do. There's a couple different things. So if I had a dog that wouldn't respond to me with the e-collar and the voice, just make sure you're doing this. Make sure your voice is there along with the e-collar. And make sure that you are using your e-collar and you're being as firm as necessary. Okay, make sure again that you're pairing your words with it. And you also may need to pair your sort of body pressure with it as well. So I would not only use my voice, but I would also go get the dog as well. I'd put my body pressure on the dog, meaning just walk towards them in a stern manner, telling the dog to sit or down. And if you have to repeat yourself in any of those, then I would use the e-collar as well, because the dog knows what it wants. Knows what you want, and it still doesn't do it. Here's the other thing. The other way is to change direction more often. The best way is to change completely, like a 180, to keep the dog on its toes. And so, um, really be tough on that dog. Don't even let the dog get 30 yards away from you before you change direction or you call the dog to you. But just make sure that, again, you are being as firm as the dog needs you to be so that you can work through that, um, that any sort of nonsense. And then when you take the e-collar off, the dog will still respect your word and your body language. That's most important. Dog has got to respect those things as well. Because you can teach a dog how to come to you without the e-collar with just purely your voice and body pressure. It will take a lot longer. But it is very possible because I've done it plenty of times. All right, you guys, those of you who are watching, thanks for your question, Carly. If that's off kilter, ask another question or explain to me more. But that's, again, a very organic way on how to get a dog to come to you. The dog's got to know that you're going to come after them if they don't come. Okay. So those of you who are watching Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook, please feel free to ask questions. This is a dog behavior Q&A. My questions will not hurt your dog, I promise you. But you can consider my answer, give it a shot, and if it works, then that's awesome. I'll leave it at that. Do you have an insecure dog series? Yes, not necessarily a series, but all my dogs that I work with have some sort of insecurity. Every video that I have on my YouTube, those dogs are insecure. Aggression comes from insecurity. The dogs that I work with, okay? I mean, so I don't necessarily have a series of insecure dogs, but all the dogs that are on my videos are insecure. So again, watch my place command video and watch my doorbell video, or people coming through the door. And then you can also watch the how to introduce your dog to strangers video, just for some extra tips that may help you moving forward. All right. Okay. What is your most frequently asked question? I only ask that because I am a trainer from the Northeast, and it seems to me that people call me with the same old questions. Let's see, question that I get asked the most. Well, I'll have to think about that. But one that pops up, and I don't think I hear this the most, but one is, if my dog doesn't show aggression off my property. So how are you going to fix aggression if you don't see it? That's kind of a common question. And the answer would be, the reason why I don't see aggression is because I see all the signs that lead up to it. I'm able to read. I'm able to, obviously, I know and I'm aware of when they can become aggressive, and I'm ready to sort of, I always tell people, I'm ready to cut the fuse before it reaches the bomb. And that's what being proactive is all about. That's how you're going to keep your dog from reacting on leash, or jumping up out the door, jumping on strangers, biting strangers, stuff like that. So I don't have to see the aggression, although I do see aggression, but I don't necessarily have to see it in order to help it or improve it. I don't like to say fix it, but I don't have to necessarily get bit in order to teach a dog not to bite, or that biting is not okay. Okay, because we have to remember one thing when it comes to dogs. At our core, we are also mammals, and we, if we couldn't talk, would behave very similar to dogs. We would be more in tune with what eye contact meant and posturing meant. What an insecure dog looks like is similar to what an insecure human looks like. A fearful dog looks like a fearful human if you put them side by side. A confident dog looks like a confident human. A balanced person also looks like what a balanced dog looks like. And I know that because I studied both human and dogs. So there was a trainer that posted that we shouldn't humanize dogs. And if you would have asked or sort of presented that to me maybe 7 years ago, I would have agreed to that sort of narrative. But the truth is, we humanize dogs because they are similar to us. They are very similar to us. That's why we humanize them. Should we? I'm not saying that dressing your dog up and calling it baby is cool, because on one hand, we do have to remember that they have needs. That's not really the point. Well, that is the point. The point is the dogs do have needs, and their needs are not that different from us, but they're not exactly the same as ours. But they do have needs that are very similar to ours. They have a need to eat. They have a need to reproduce. They have a need to connect, bond. They have a need to hunt. They have a need to care, etc. So their needs are pretty similar to ours. I mean, when you break it down, survival is where they're at. That's where they stay. Survival. What's best? That's why some dogs eat when they can. Like you feed them, and you have some dogs who still are hungry. Like they'd eat the whole bag if they could. That's because they maybe are wired to think that they don't know when their next meal is going to be. So maybe that's why they're opportunists. But we are very similar. I don't want people to think that. I mean, you can study yourself, your own insecurities, your own anxieties, your own fears, and you can better understand your dog. You ever gotten bullied or beat up or attacked, and you have PTSD from that? So do dogs. Dogs have a real big problem with dogs, especially if they've been attacked by a dog, cornered, chased, just played with, bullied. Dogs get bullied just like we do. So we're not that different. Okay, guys. Had a couple of people join in from YouTube and on Facebook. just so you know, new people who are watching, my name is Jeremy Majors from Majors Academy Dog Training out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. And every week we answer questions people may have. Doesn't matter what the question is, as long as it has to do with your dog. And last week we talked about dogs and children. So if you missed that, take a look at that. Some pretty cool questions and some answers were going on. So check that out. We have tons of video on YouTube, um, tons of how-to videos. Those have slowed down a little bit since I've had my son, but I promise I'll get some new material up as I improve in my training as well, because I'm always improving, and I love the fact that you can always improve doing this. The best thing about it for me, training these dogs, is seeing them just relax, be able to relax. This is why my board and train, I want to think of it as a drug rehabilitation sort of retreat. Because for a lot of these dogs, it's their first experience where they don't have to handle everything. They don't feel like they have to handle everything. And it's no fault to the owners. The owners just don't know how, or just have been misled by misinformation on the internet. And so for the first time, these dogs get to sort of take a deep breath and just chill. Again, not having to. God, I have a dog who chewed through a garage during fireworks, the 4th of July. I mean, that's some serious anxiety. Chewing through wood. It's like, where are you gonna go? Like, where are you trying to go? Everyone's home, and there's fireworks, and you're trying to go out by the fireworks. Is that what you're trying to do? Um, so anyway, yeah, it's a very rewarding job. It's tough because the toughest part is dealing with um, the dynamics of how just reteaching people how to deal with their dog. You know, because for a lot of people, their dogs it's a very emotional thing, and when emotions are involved, it's definitely um, very sometimes interesting and challenging to get people to realize that, hey, you know, the consistency is what trumps all. Everything sort of submits to consistency, and then once you learn how to um, the tools and the techniques to get that consistency, then it's up to the owner to continue to put those techniques in place. You know what I mean? All right, let's see if we've got some questions. Okay. How do you feel? I get this question all the time. How do you feel about the bonker? The bonker. Okay, so for those of you who don't know what the bonker is, it is a tool that was invented. I'm trying to think of the guy's name. Oh, what's his name? I don't know his name, but it was a dog trainer who invented a sort of training tool that you roll up a towel and you just bonk your dog with the rolled up towel. And it's a training technique that will get your dog to want to avoid doing something that you don't want it to do. Jumping, barking, counter surfing, uh, things like that. Bonker. So I would, if you guys are interested in what that is, it is effective. I don't use it personally. It is effective. You can look it up on YouTube. Just type in. Oh, it's Gary Wilkes. Is the trainer who, I guess, brought it to the dog training world. Gary Wilkes. You guys should look him up. He's a very respected trainer, and he has videos on YouTube about the bonker. And don't be afraid to give it a shot. I do want to recommend that you give any and all approaches a shot, even though I don't use it. You know what I mean? So if any of you guys who are watching know what the bonker is and you've had some experience with it, good or bad, tell me right now. I would like some feedback. If you haven't, check it out on YouTube. Um, I got a question about treadmill training. I'll just go over it really quickly. I think treadmill training is good. It should not be a substitute for a walk, though. You shouldn't just put your dog on a treadmill and just not walk it. Walk your dog too. If you have a dog who's anxious on the walk, treadmill train the dog so you can treadmill the dog or put the dog on the treadmill for a good 10 minutes. Excuse me, before you take the dog on a walk. It may help it may help really well. So, also, if you live in cold climate like we do, it's also very beneficial for that as well. All right, guys, those of you who are watching, feel free to ask a question. Ask as many as you like. Let's start a conversation. I am here. I am giving out free advice. And honestly, it selfishly helps me. Okay? So I do this not only to help you guys, but I do this because it helps me as well. Me having to think about different ways of explaining the things that I do very much so helps me on a teaching level. I love to teach because teaching also helps me learn. Helps me learn. I said that weird. But so next week I am doing those private lessons and I couldn't be more excited. I haven't done private lessons in a very long time. And I like talking to people. If you know me, I rather talk to people on the phone than through email. I don't like email. I like being on the phone because you can sort of get a better feel of the situation. You know what I mean? Because again, this is an emotional sort of deal. People are very attached to their dogs. It's not an easy, oh yeah, let me just come over and fix your fridge or your AC. Sometimes I wish it was that easy, but it's not. And so I have to talk to people. I have to give people confidence that, hey, it's not the end of the world because, man, some dogs really cause a lot of trauma to families. Some people's dogs hold their, their families hostage of living every day stressed. And so it is up to me and other trainers to alleviate that. I just had a dog that wouldn't allow anyone who went in the basement, he wouldn't allow back up. He would guard the stairs. Big old bloodhound start growling when anyone came up the stairs. So how crazy is that? You can't walk in your own house because you have a big old dog threatening to bite you. It's not cool. This is why we do what we do. because it can be a very stressful thing. Okay, got a comment, not a question, but okay, here we go. I got beat up on Facebook for bringing up balanced training to another person and stating that positive reinforcement training does not work for all dogs. People are vicious. Sadly, these positive R people that came at me were not very positive to me. Yeah, I think you guys know um, how I feel about positive reinforcement only training. If you have a person that actually tells you that they're positive only, by definition, they're lying to you. Lying. There's no such thing as positive only dog training. Okay, so I'll just break it down because I've done it 1,000 times. All right, so you're saying that positive only is that's your approach, right? Okay, so you don't walk your dog on a leash? Is that what you're saying? Because if you walk your dog on a leash, that is a positive punishment tool on a very basic level. Because when you put your dog on leash, you're telling your dog, um, you can't go this way, and you can't go that way. Oh, and you have to stay here. So how's that positive only? If it's positive only, then you should train your dog without a collar on, because a collar also is a tool that doesn't align with positive only training. So they want to, positive only trainers want to paint this picture that if you don't do positive only training, then your dog should be put down or you're not doing right by your dog. And that is absolutely nuts. It's not one way or the other, folks. It's a mixture of both. So that's my thoughts on positive only. I don't want to harp on it too long. But if they're using a leash, then they're not being positive only. Sorry. Oh, hey, we match. You got the same shirt on, Sarah? Oh, cheers to that. Okay, if you were conducting a meet and greet between a dog that tends to be nervous and a potential adopter, how would you handle the meet? I would tell the people to ignore the dog. Simple as that. I would allow the dog to have the choice to come up or not. And I would take my time too. And it may not even be that first meeting. You know what I mean? I would say meet the dog wherever the dog is. If the dog says I'm not ready to come up to them, then maybe try again the next week or in a couple of days. But some things just can't be rushed, and they shouldn't be, because you'll steer certain situations in the wrong way, in the wrong direction. Let the dog come to them. They'll love that moment, and that's a moment that they should earn. And so, again, best way for that to happen is for them to act like the dog's not even there. When the dog becomes a factor in their mind, then the dog factors that they're minding the dog. That makes sense. So if we're paying attention to the dog is more nervous because you're actually doing what the dog is expecting, especially for a nervous dog. The nervous dog says, "Oh God, here comes people, and they're going to come touch me. I'm going to be nervous now." But what happens if that doesn't happen? Then the dog is more likely to say, start to think, use its brain, and maybe they'll go check them out. So that's what I would do. Thanks for your question. Vlad, how are you, buddy? Miss you. Hope to see you soon. I agree for all it's worth. I am more confident handling our dog off leash rather than yanking a leash when he misbehaves. Absolutely. Off leash is where they're supposed to be. On leash is not natural. They're not born with a string or a leather leash. Teach the dog off leash. Much better for them. All right. All right, you guys. If you have any final questions, feel free to ask now. If you want to continue a conversation, feel free to ask now. I don't think I have any more questions. Let me just check YouTube and Facebook one last time. Yeah, we're good to go. Let's see. Yep. That's about it, folks. All right. We're going to end it here. Thank you guys for watching. Please give me a thumbs up or a heart if you liked it, or please subscribe if you haven't on YouTube. And if you're on Instagram, I don't know what the hell you do on Instagram, but do something. Or wave. I think it says wave. Yeah, do that. But anyway, we'll be here next week. I appreciate you guys' questions. And go dogs. Okay, bye.